So I just wanted to welcome everyone here today. We are doing a transfer alumni panel, and the purposes of these panels are really to have SCC students learn more about the transfer process from current SCC alumni who have been through the transfer process themselves. So that is the main purpose of the alumni panel. We'll start with a few introductions and then we'll go right into the panelists. So I'd like to start out by introducing the man who needs no introduction, and that would be President Mike Gorman.
Good afternoon and welcome to the world of Zoom that we're all fed up with at this point in time and would like to be doing something very different, but this is where we are. I want to thank the Alumni Association, first of all, for sponsoring this annually, and for Nick, because Nick always puts it together and he gets people to volunteer. And I just think that's a wonderful thing that we have going on. And Bill said, hey, make sure you say these few things. And I'm trying to make sure I do that, Bill. I always put them in the Twitch mode when I go off script. So I kind of hesitate on some of it. And but let's just look at it. And if you're a recent graduate, you're about to be a graduate, whatever, the whole idea of community college is really based upon transfer or having possibilities. And Salem is right there in making sure that we have possibilities for everybody. We are affordable. We have quality instruction. We are empowering. And that's part of why we're all here today. And we are very personalized, which makes this experience something that you can take to another level. I had this experience of trying to transfer from a community college, because I am a community college graduate. I'm very proud of that fact. But I had this experience about 123 years ago that I was transferring from Burlington County College to Widener College. It was Widener College and now it's Widener University. And I would have loved to have had a panel like this to try and help coach me through some of the nuance that goes into this idea of transfer. Because it sounds pretty simple and still you have to sit down, you have to fill out the papers and do all the work associated with it and pick out the right place. I was very fortunate that I did pick out the right place and things worked out fairly well for me. So with that, I do have other obligations I have to maintain, but this would be a lot more fun to stay and listen to. But I do have to excuse myself, Nick and Bill and the Alumni Association. BJ, thank you so very much for putting this together, and I'll get out of the way so you can do some more substantive work. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gorman. I'd like to now introduce President of the Alumni Association, BJ Ayers, who would like to say a few words.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really happy to see you here today. The Alumni Association members are pleased to stay strongly connected with our alma mater, and we're always proud to give back, especially to support our current students and our transferring students. I echo Dr. Corman's sincere thanks to Nick and to our alumni volunteers. On a personal note, I would like to share an experience. My son, he is a graduate of Salem Community College. In fact, he completed his last 2 courses for his associate's degree while he was away in Iraq many years ago, and came home, and 2 weeks after his return from Iraq, he graduated at Salem Community College. And last night he advised me that he's about 6 credits shy of completing his master's degree, which made me just boom with pride. Exceeded my education, exceeded my expectations. So very proud of him, and it all started at SCC and with the options he had for his transfer. So this program is being recorded and will be uploaded to the SCC channel for more students to watch. And now I'll turn the program back over to Nick.
All right, thank you, BJ, and congratulations to your son. That's amazing. It's very great accomplishment for Now I'd like to introduce our guest speaker for today. He's an SCC Distinguished Alumnus. He is also the Executive Director of the New Jersey Center for Student Success within the New Jersey Council of Community Colleges, and that is Dr. Jacob Bartman.
Nick, thank you so much. Thanks for inviting me. I'm delighted to be here with all of you today. Thanks to Bill, Kevin, Seal, everybody who put this together, BJ especially. BJ, I've thanked you many times before in person. I'm going to thank you again for yours and your family's sacrifice and service to our country, and your service as a first responder and all the work you do for the community. You know, you're a role model to me. You've always have been, you always will be, you and your family. And I just cannot thank you from the bottom of my heart enough for everything you've done for the community, you and your family, for this country. I'm delighted to see so many familiar faces and some new faces. As Nick said, my name's Jake Farbman. I'm a 1996, I think, graduate of Salem Community College. It was so long ago, I have a hard time remembering dates. And I just want to share a couple things with you because the folks that are on the line are going to share much more important information than I will, but I might have a few nuggets of wisdom that are going to be helpful for you. So first, I'm going to attempt to share my screen. Okay, I can't do it. I'll put it in the chat then. I'll put it in the chat for everybody. njtransfer.com. njtransfer.com. This is a critical resource for all of you that I did not have when I was a student at Salem Community College. It's not that Salem didn't make that resource available to me. It was that I was in college so long ago that the internet was in its infancy and we didn't have such technology that could support such a thing. But basically, this is connected to a larger law that myself, Bill, Seal, and former President Emeritus Pete Contini fought for. And that is something we have in New Jersey called the Lampet Law. We have a transfer law in New Jersey that protects every single community college student, and we're very proud of this. Basically, the way it works, thanks, Nick. Basically, the way it works is that if you are a community college student and you plan to transfer to one of our state institutions, public state institutions, if you earn your associate degree and transfer major to major, all of your credits are protected. Your general education courses transfer over as a block, and your courses within your major transfer over, and you do not lose any of the credits that you worked so hard for, paid so much money, made so much sacrifice to earn. That's very important on the get-go to share that with you. You are protected, but the key here is you have to get your associate degree. One of the stipulations in this statewide law is that if you decide to transfer before earning your associate degree, then the four-year schools have the ability to pick and choose what they're going to take, what they're not going to take, what's going to count as elective when it should count as a gen ed requirement or a major requirement. So I just wanted to share that with you, that we have this law that protects you. But related to that is this website called njtransfer.org. Now, I'm not going to go through the nitty-gritty of it, but I share this with you because as a student, you can go online and you can see how your credits will transfer to the various institutions of higher education, how your courses will transfer to the various institutions of higher education that you may be considering transferring to. And my advice to you, earlier than later, if you're thinking about transferring, if that's on your mind, book an appointment with your advisor. You've got great support folks at Salem Community College. They helped me all those years ago before we had an NJ transfer program like this, before we had a state law protecting our credits. Go make an appointment with your advisor as soon as possible. He or she can do this remotely with you, walk you through your transcript of what you've taken. You know, you can let your advisor know which colleges you're considering transferring to, which majors you're considering pursuing, and your advisor can quickly map out how your credits are going to transfer and what kinds of requirements you're going to have to take your junior and senior year. So this is a critical piece of the puzzle here in transferring, and I just wanted to share this information with you just in case you were not aware of it. So I'd like to transition for a minute and just share a little bit about my story. Hopefully it's helpful to all of you who are here with us live, and for those of you who may be watching the recording. You know, I came from I say this without shame. I came from a very poor, broken family in Elmer, New Jersey. And, you know, my mom didn't have the money to send me to college, but I was able to qualify for a Pell Grant. I was able to qualify for a tuition aid grant. I went to Salem Community College. And from day one, the folks there welcomed me with open arms. They supported me. You know, whenever I had a question in class, my professors were always there for me after class to answer questions for me. I could always go to the student services offices and get, you know, counsel on what courses do I take next semester? You know, I'm thinking about transferring here and there. What would you recommend? You know, that kind of thing. And it really helped a lot. And part of it is I had a professor who's now retired, Bill Borda, and he was my English professor, humanities professor. And I guess he saw something in me, and he pulled me aside after a class and he said, "Hey, do you know anything about public relations?" I said, "Well, I happen to be the volunteer PR person for my local fire department, and above and beyond just writing stories to put in the local paper, that's about as much as I know." He said, "Well, I have a friend who runs Meals on Wheels and she needs an intern. Why don't you go see her?" Before I knew it, I had an internship. That internship led to another internship with the hospital system, South Jersey Hospital at the time. That internship led to a part-time job opportunity with Bill Clark at the PR office at Salem Community College. So I transferred to Rowan, majored in public relations, worked part-time with Bill and the team at Salem to build my portfolio, build my resume while I was still pursuing my bachelor's degree. What did that lead to? I got recruited to stay at Rowan for an extra year to get my master's degree. Recruited, I worked as what's called a graduate assistant. Rowan paid me to go to school. I know it's a radical concept, right? You pay all this money to go to college. Wait, they're going to pay you? Yeah, you take the opportunity. So they paid me to stay there an extra year. I worked on campus. They gave me a stipend. Now, albeit back in those days, the stipend was $5 a day, but it was a stipend that helped me get my master's degree. And it helped me command a stronger position and a better salary once I graduated. And one thing leads to another. Because I had such strong roots at Salem Community College, some folks put a good word in for me when I applied for a job at this organization in Trenton called the New Jersey Council of County Colleges. Get hired there. Been there a long time. Been promoted many times to the fact now that I'm one of 16 people throughout the country who has the type of job I have, an executive director of a statewide student success center. I never thought when I was at Salem Community College I would have this opportunity. Never thought. And it's all because I went to Salem Community College and for everything that Bill Clark did for me to mentor me so that I could become a professional. I went from being a college student to a professional while I was still in college. So I guess just the point of all of this is that in addition to transferring, you know, I don't want to sound like my personal trainer, but you have to have a goal. You have to have a vision. You have to think about where you want to be in life. And what are these things, what are these opportunities that you have to take advantage of in order to get there? Now, I'm not saying to cut corners. I'm not saying to, you know, sell other people short. I'm not saying to break the rules. I'm just saying that it's only an opportunity if you take advantage of it. And you've got to have the fire in your gut. You've got to have the fire in your gut to want it more than anybody else. Because the folks on the line who know me, they'll tell you, I'm not the brightest bulb in the bunch, but I am pretty motivated. And if you've got that motivation, that can make up for a lot of things that you may think you lack, but you're all very wise people because you chose to go to Salem Community College. So you got to have that fire because there's always going to be somebody else who wants it more than you. Why can't you be that person who wants it more than anybody else? So I just wanted to share all that with you. I hope it's helpful. I'll put my contact information in the chat. If any of you have any questions or if there's anything I can do to help any of you along your way, as you are transferring, as you're considering your career options, please reach out to me. Bill and Seal will tell you I'm busy. I'm not that busy. I can always make time for fellow Salem Community College students. So Nick, Bill, Seal, thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here. And I wish everybody all the best as we continue to navigate this pandemic, but more importantly, the paths you're choosing for your academic and career futures.
Thank you, Jake.
Thanks, Jake. Amongst, you know, all of the introducing and before I go on to introduce the panelists, I figured I'd probably introduce myself. I think that's kind of important. So My name is Nick Raddi. I'm the moderator here for the Alumni Transfer Panel. I am a 2007 alumni of Salem Community College myself. I'm also an academic advisor here at the college. And if anyone needs any help with transfer, please let me know. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our panelists who are here today. If you guys can just go ahead and wave while I introduce you, and then we'll get started with the first panelist questions. So our panelist number one here is a dear friend and colleague of mine, Miss Marissa Stanko. Marissa, if you could just wave here. All right, perfect. All right. Marissa is a transfer student from Rowan University. Our second panelist is Sally Prasch. I hope I said that right. Okay, thank you. She is a transfer student who actually transferred from a four-year school to Salem Community College. I can't wait to hear of Sally's story here. Panelist number three is our alumni secretary, Carrie Italiano. Carrie, if you could please wave for us. Right. And Carrie went to a few different colleges, which I'm sure she'll talk about. Panelist number four, she was running a few minutes late. I don't know if she's here yet. I don't think so quite yet. Is Jennifer McGraw. She will be here a little bit later. And panelist number five, I would like to welcome Brianna Lewis. Brianna, if you could please wave for us. Brianna was a student at Rutgers Camden and is also a former student of mine. So welcome all panelists, and we'll go ahead and get started with the first question. Now this question is basically going to be the same question for everyone, this first question. We'll go ahead and start with Marissa. And I would like for you to kind of explain your journey from SCC to your four-year institution.
Absolutely. So hi, everyone. Again, I'm Marissa. My journey from SCC to Rowan probably got its start at the end of my first semester at SCC. I switched my major from biology chemistry to liberal arts, which is quite the change. I realized I was not very good at chemistry. And when I switched over, I realized that a lot of the research that I had done in high school towards colleges geared with science programs, I would have to redo for colleges geared with writing programs, which is what I was interested in and what I've pursued since then. So I started to do some more research. I worked with my advisors. I was in EOF at the time. I worked with some of our EOF staff then to look at colleges to try to figure out what colleges had good writing programs, where I'd be interested in going if I was interested in going out of state. And I do thank Jake for mentioning it because it reminded me all that time ago, the website looked very different. I did use NJ Transfer to compare my courses that I had at SCC to kind of see what would transfer. And a couple of semesters after that, probably my third semester was when I started to really seriously say, you know, I'm going to be transferring soon. It's time to figure out where I'd like to go. And at that point, I did have a professor recommend to me the wonderful Jo Rayo. She recommended Rowan's writing arts program to me. She's an alumni of the program, and she thought that it would be a good fit for my interests and my strengths at the time. I looked into the program, and it's a very unique program. It looked like a lot of fun. So I decided to transfer over to Rowan. I took NJ Transfer. I looked at Rowan again to see what would transfer over, and I scoured the website and everything to look into Rowan, and I started the application process. Opened in February of 2019, which feels like forever ago. I applied to Rowan at that point, and I believe they told me that I got in about a month later. And so I was finishing up my last classes at SCC. I was getting ready for graduation. I was my final year as the Phi Theta Kappa chapter president. And so I was working with, Laura was my advisor at the time, and for most of my experience at SCC. Hi, Laura. I was working with Laura to make sure that all of the classes that I was taking were geared towards moving into Rowan. And then I graduated and I moved on to Rowan, and I will stop there because I know that's coming up in a later question. So I will hand this over to panelist number 2.
All right, panelist number 2, believe that is Sally. Same question. Explain your journey. We'll go backwards on that. Your journey from your 4-year school to SCC.
Yeah, I started out in glass in junior high, and so I apprenticed junior high and high school, and then I started college at the University of Nebraska and transferred to the Kansas University, so because they had a really great hot glass program. But then after I got out of college, you know, I'm working in the hot shop and realizing that it's really hard to make a living, but you could make a better living doing scientific glass. And I had, you know, experience with that in junior high and high school. So AT&T contacted me. They wanted me to come work with them doing scientific apparatus with quartz. And I really hadn't done much work with quartz. And so I decided to come to school at Salem Community College and get my certificate and my degree there, you know, and then go work for AT&T. And so I kind of did a backwards thing, but it's because, you know, Salem is the only school in America that lets you get a scientific glass blowing certificate and applied science degree. So that kind of opened a lot of doors for me in different places. So yeah, I did a little backward step there. Is that all right?
Thank you, Sally. No, that's perfectly fine. If we could have panelist number 3, Carrie, if you can talk a little bit about your journey from SCC to your 4-year school.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Carey Italiano. Just a little background information on me. I am a 2010 Salem Community College graduate. I actually finished schooling in 2009, but I didn't fill out the paperwork in time, so I got it filled out in 2010. So technically it's 2009, but it's okay. I also had a bachelor's in pre-law from Wilmington University, a master's of business administration in marketing, and a master's of public administration, all from Wilmington University. So as I began my journey from SCC to not only 1, but 2 different 4-year schools, as you mentioned, Nick, SCC couldn't have made it any easier. SCC does have a lot of affiliations, as mentioned before, with numerous 4-year institutions in our area, which makes the process even smoother than glass. However, my first transfer from Salem Community College, I decided to move to South Louisiana and enroll at the University of Louisiana in Lafayette. So this particular school has a very strong ratio of in-state students only. Many out-of-state students ended up going to LSU and Tulane, like the bigger name schools down in Louisiana. But Salem Community College did make the transfer process very, very easy for me. I can just, I'm sitting here typing this up, and I could just remember that there are so many language barriers because their Cajun accents are real. It's very, very hard to understand people from South Louisiana. And I remember everybody from Salem Community College, before emails were really prevalent and things like that, there was a lot of phone calls and direct contact, and SCC demonstrated nothing but seamless cooperation with the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. Now, Louisiana was a little different. They didn't really have a great academic advising program, which I know we're going to be touching base on in a little bit, but I also just wanted to mention that at Salem Community College, I did receive my degree in liberal arts. I started at Salem Community College when I was in high school, actually. And I had no clue what I wanted to do, so I just did liberal arts because that's what everyone does. And when I graduated from high school, kind of along with Jacob and his story, my parents were divorced. We didn't have a lot of money, and I was eligible for Pell Grants. So education wasn't the big thing on my list to do, but I'm like, hey, if I'm getting free Pell Grants to go to school, I might as well. And you know what? It was the best thing that I could have done. So I look forward to answering questions 2, 3, and 3.2. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Our next panelist is Jennifer McGraw. And Jennifer, same question. If you could please explain your journey from SCC to your 4-year college.
So hello, everyone. Just make sure you can hear me okay, because I have to wear a mask while in the building, as you know, COVID times. But so basically, just a little background about me. I graduated from Salem in 2020, right smack in the middle of the pandemic. And so I graduated with my associates in business. But basically, my journey from SCC to now Rowan has been very, very straightforward, very easy. There's been some challenges, but I think SCC, in short, really helped me break out of my shell, helped me gain leadership skills and all types of skills and practices and stuff that I gained through EOF. And so basically, I wanted to kind of start from where I transitioned from SCC to my 4-year school. So I transitioned, like I said, right in the middle of a pandemic. So you can imagine, I mean, the challenges that can face. But even as I was transitioning from Salem, even after I already graduated, my advisors, some of the teachers I've grown close to, even some friends, they were really helpful in the transition. They made sure that I was able to get done everything I needed to get done. And they just helped that process go as smooth as it could be. And I really appreciate that, especially since SCC was like the first place that really took me in and kind of helped shape me into the person I am today. And now that I'm at Rowan.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Jennifer. Thank you. Our next panelist is Brianna Lewis. So Brianna, if you could answer same question, explaining your journey from SCC to your 4-year school.
Okay, hello. So at SCC, I changed my major a few times. I was really unsure of what I wanted to do, and I really wasn't confident in myself. But towards the end, I ended up majoring in liberal arts. I graduated with my associates in liberal arts. And I remember talking to Laura and Cal Cizik about, my career goals and what I would be interested in. And so I'm like, I want to help people. I want to get into counseling. So after graduation, I wanted to go to school right away. I got accepted to Rowan, but I wasn't able to go because I was still considered dependent for FAFSA. So I took a little break. Just recently in 2020, back in August, I applied for Rutgers University in Camden. I got my acceptance letter. I was so excited. So January 19th of 2021 is when I started my semester at Rutgers.
Awesome. Great, great story, Brianna. It's great to see that you're doing well, and we're hoping your first semester at Rutgers Camden is going well. Awesome. All right, we're gonna go back to Marissa now, and this next question is for you. So when you first arrived at your 4-year school, what was the major difference from SCC, and how were you able to adjust?
Well, that is an easy answer. The major difference between SCC and Rowan is that Rowan is huge and not as interconnected as SCC. And by huge, I mean, SCC is 4 or 5 buildings of a campus. I was able to memorize basically the whole campus and walk around and go in between all the buildings. And when I was there, I was involved in so many things that most people knew who I was, and I knew who a lot of people were and a lot of the different departments and a lot of the different students. And the first time I stepped on Rowan's campus, it's miles long. There's so many buildings, and there were about 20,000 students compared to, I think our number is usually somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 here, so about a tenth of what it is at Rowan. So it was very overwhelming at first. I mean, I was born and raised in Salem County, so small towns, small things are what I'm used to. And I was definitely really used to knowing everybody and feeling like I was personally connected to a lot of the faculty and staff at SCC. So after getting over the initial panic attack of like, whoa, what I tried to do to adjust was, one, on a practical note, I did spend some time on the campus before actually starting my classes to memorize my route in between the buildings, because I am very easily lost. So I walked back and forth between the building where most of my classes is on the newer side of campus. And then I had another class at the beginning that was on the other side. So it was about a 1.5 mile walk between the two that I had to do in about 15 minutes between my classes. So I also emailed the professors at the beginning to say, I have to walk about 1.5 miles in 15 minutes. So there might be some time discrepancies in between when I leave and when I get to your classes, but memorizing the route really helps me figure that out. But the most important thing that I did was to try and form a community with the people where I was in writing arts, because writing arts itself, Rowan, even though it's so large, they do try to keep their class sizes pretty small, about the same as SCC, usually between 20 and 30 students in a class. So I was able to start making some friends and connecting to people. I took some internships on as well that I'll talk about later that allowed me to connect with people in the department more, to get to know more people, to know their names, and to feel like people knew who I was. So it's not quite the same as knowing everybody at the school like I did at SCC, but forming a community and the practical piece of making sure that I did not get lost every single day was kind of how I overcame that feeling of feeling like I didn't belong, which took a lot longer than it did at SCC. At SCC, it didn't take long before I felt connected to a lot of people because everybody's so close and everybody's so friendly and nice. But once I put myself out there a little bit more, I was able to connect with more people, and now I really feel very much at home in writing arts.
Great answer, Marissa. I think it's important to really familiarize yourself with the campus, just so you don't get lost on that first day and everything. You just never know. And, in the comparison of SCC and the larger schools, yes, SCC has wonderful, kind faculty and staff, but you can find that in other schools in a smaller community. So glad you were able to find that. Our next question is for Sally. And I wanted you to kind of talk a little bit about your experience, since you did have a more unique experience, about your experience in transferring into SCC from your 4-year college. Did you feel like this was a fairly smooth transition for you?
Yes, it was a smooth transition getting there. But I will have to say, just like the previous person, that community was very important. And so Jacob, I lived in an apple farm. So, just the community, not only at Salem Community College, but the community in the area, because it was a shock for me to move to Southern New Jersey. I mean, I thought, what do people do here? It was just like, there was so much space. There was so much, you know, all these peppers growing and tomatoes growing. I've never seen anything like that before. So reaching out and living on Apple Farm, I lived on in the international house there. So I lived with people from all over the world in Apple, you know, at Apple Farm in New Jersey, you know, which is kind of crazy. But I think reaching out and finding community is very important, whichever way you're going for a school. Yeah. Does that answer your question all right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, huge shout out to Apple Farm. They are an amazing community. I was actually a 2012 employee of them during their summer arts camp, where, you know, high school and middle school students come from all over the United States. It's, you know, very regionally renowned place, and just they do a very good job of creating a sense of community there. So very special place for sure. All right, Carrie, this next question is for you, and I just wanted to know, how did SCC help you to transfer to your four-year college?
All right, well, I feel like I'm going to be echoing Marissa in this answer, but Salem Community College is a great school when preparing for a four-year education. As mentioned before, I started taking classes while in high school, so I feel that Salem Community College did not only help me excel during the duration of my high school career educationally, but it also kept me motivated during my years during SCC and after SCC. I grew up in Salem County, small county. I graduated from Woodstown High School. Not a lot of students in 2008. Salem Community College had slightly bigger classes than Woodstown High School, but it was perfect size. So, you know, just the whole process in the classroom setting process did not seem overwhelming. So any students coming in, it's not going to be an overwhelming process, which I think kept my mind at ease, and I was just able to maintain good time management skills as well. So back to the term motivation that I mentioned with education, it was something I was never really interested in. So along with everyone else's experiences, I had the privilege of having an awesome history professor who is no longer at the college, who made the subject just so interesting. And it was really connecting that we had the smaller classes, and, you know, I felt like he not only taught the class, but taught to me. And history was something I was never interested in. And here I am. I have a minor in history, and I would love to start teaching it once my kids grow up as an adjunct professor. So, yeah, so the process from Salem Community College to a four-year institution really made everything bearable, kept you calm, and by the time you went into that four-year institution, you just went there and you just got it done.
Awesome. Thank you, Carrie. And, you know, speaking of history professors, just want to shout out to, you know, my colleague and friend, Mr. Anthony Melita, who is one of our current history professors, has done, you know, many different projects throughout the college in Salem County, and teaching history through, you know, various ways throughout the county. So just shout out to Tony and the awesome job that he does now. Next panelist, Ms. McGraw. I would just want to know from you, you know, we have very influential staff members at SCC. So I was just kind of curious as to which SCC staff member would you say, I wasn't going to make Marissa answer this question, but yeah, which SCC staff member would you say was the most influential, and how did they help you through the transfer process?
So I really have to divide that into two people, just because they were like the best staff that I've ever had throughout my entire basically education career, and that was Dr. Isaiah White and Miss Wendy Decker. Miss Wendy Decker was my advisor, and then Dr. Isaiah White was the overall EOF coordinator. Since when I first came to SCC and I kind of was interviewed to be in the EOF program, I had no clue, I guess, where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do. I really had no direction, which is kind of crazy to even think about. And Dr. White actually was my interviewer, and I just knew coming out of that interview, I was like, I'm definitely not going to be an EOF because the way that I was, I mean, not that I was a bad person, but just because I had no direction, and like, I really didn't think that I would be a perfect fit for the program. But regardless, I was accepted into the program, and I just took every opportunity in that program that I could for granted, because Dr. White and Ms. Decker both really helped me kind of, again, break out of my shell, helped me by, like, not persuading me, but kind of encouraging me to do different clubs, do different things, try different things, branch out of my comfort zone. And I'm super grateful for that. And then Ms. Decker also really helped me throughout my transfer process with Rowan, because it's something I want to get into later, but basically I wasn't accepted into the degree path that I wanted to go into at Rowan. So she was there for me. And then she also helped me pick another major that I really ended up loving. So I'm very grateful for both of them.
Awesome. Great. Dr. White and Ms. Decker are two wonderful people that work, at SCC. Just wonderful, wonderful staff members for sure. This next question is for Brianna, and just wanted you to kind of talk about, when you first arrived, I guess this would be considered remotely arrived at your four-year school. What was the major difference that you saw from SCC, and how were you able to adjust?
Okay, so what would be different, I guess I would say, would be like doing school online. That's really new and different, especially because we have to, because of the pandemic. I would also say, like, I didn't get the chance to actually be on.
Oh, I think Brianna froze on us here a little bit.
Be in group chats with some of my classmates, so that makes it a little bit easier.
All right, great, perfect. We're going to go back to Marissa for what will probably be the final question, I'm going to say, just in the interest of time. So Marissa, if you could answer this question for me, what do you believe, what should students do in order to have a smooth transition to a four-year college? What advice would you give those students?
Okay, I have three main things I think that would be the advice to kind of combine the last question that we're not going to go over as well. Number one, take advantage of what's offered to you through SCC. There's so many things that will help you when you're transferring to a four-year school. Your advisor will help you. Laura was excellent in helping me just figure everything out because I had no idea what I was doing. And she had transferred, between colleges and graduated with multiple degrees, and she was able to just help me stay sane and figure everything out. And also after I realized that there were scholarships that were available to me that were specifically because of how I had been involved in SCC. Like I mentioned before, I was the Phi Theta Kappa chapter president while I was at SCC, and Rowan has a transfer scholarship specifically for students that were in Phi Theta Kappa and specifically for students who are transferring from a community college. So I automatically qualified for that coming in just because of my experiences at SCC. And I was also able to take advantage of a lot of other things. My work experience there, my wonderful professors wrote recommendation letters for me when I moved over there. A lot of my leadership experience that came from SCC, I was able to transfer over and make use of both in my personal statement for my application to Rowan and later on when I was a student. Number two, oh, I'm sorry, that was the wrong finger. never done that in a meeting before. I was out of pure habit. I promise I am not insulting anyone. Number two, let's try that finger this time. Number two is to do your research. This is something that not a lot of students do, I think, when they're looking into college. They're just like, I'm going to go to college, I'm going to go somewhere, and we're going to figure it out. You have to look into the nitty-gritty of everything. I spent a lot of hours scouring Rowan's website, looking specifically at writing arts, but also looking at everything else: financial aid, admissions, tuition, their ratings online, what other people thought of them, what kind of professors were there, what kind of educational ideology they ascribed to. I looked into basically everything that the school had to offer, all the information that they had to help me decide, you know, was this a school that I wanted to go to? And number three is to know what you want before you transfer. Because I was looking for a very specific kind of school. I wanted something local because I did not want to go halfway across the country or the world. I wanted to stay local, and I was willing to commute. I didn't want to live on campus because it's really expensive. And I like my money, because that is piece number three of that. I wanted to save as much money as I could for my goals after graduating college. So Rowan was the perfect fit because it's a local school. The tuition rate is incredible. So I was able to stay home and save a lot of money while I was there, while also getting a really good educational experience. After looking into it, writing arts is an incredible program, very unique. The professors are incredibly qualified. So I've had a great time there, and I've been able to put a lot of my experiences and my connections from SCC to use there, because I took all of the opportunities and the connections and the networks that were available to me, and all of the things that I had learned about being a student, a good student at SCC, to Rowan. And I am proud to announce with that I will be graduating from Rowan in May with my bachelor's in writing arts. I'll have a dual concentration, and I will graduate summa cum laude. So I have SCC and the entire wonderful staff to thank for that. I will not, thank you, Nick. I would never be able to choose just one person from the SCC staff, because they're all incredible. I know Nick wants me to choose him, but I'm sorry, Nick. There's a lot of other candidates for wonderful people here and not on this call as well. So before you cut me off, I just want to say thank you to everyone at SCC for helping me reach all of my goals.
Thank you, Marissa. And I never expected you to pick me. Just kidding. It's okay. Moving on. All right. So the next question here is for Sally. And Sally, I know you've been a great glass artist for the past few years in your profession. So I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on how did SCC really help to prepare you for a career in glass art?
Boy, I don't know if I'm ever totally prepared, but I'll have to come back to the community, the glass community there. I mean, everybody comes there for glass. We have the International Flameworking Conference. People from all over the world have come there for that. It's kind of like a time for people to get together and remember classes. I graduated in the 80s, so that was a long time ago, but we still, our class still contacts each other, and we get together and do things. So I guess through contact and networking, that Salem has helped a lot. Yeah. Awesome.
Great. Thank you. Next question is for Carey. This will be Carey's last question. And I'm kind of interested to see this answer because, or hear this answer because I'm interested to see if we maybe had the same advisors around the time that we went to SCC. So wanted to know what your experience was like with academic advising at the four-year school, and then how did that compare to SCC?
So first, to answer your question, Nick, I cannot remember for the life of me who my academic advisor was from Salem Community College. I looked through paperwork that I kept. I would probably know who it was if somebody said the name, but I mean, you're talking to an 8-month-old pregnant lady here who I can't remember my own name half the time, especially something that happened almost 13 years ago now. But I'm going to jump right into my question or my answer. So as I mentioned before, I did go off to Louisiana where I did not have an academic advisor there. I felt like I was kind of dangling out on a hook at this school, but you know, I made the most of it because that's just what we do here in Salem County. We wing it. I remember choosing my classes. I sent an email and that was pretty much it. I was accepted in those classes and bing, bam, done. I never once met anybody face to face or even had a phone call. Some of the peers that I talked to told me that an academic advisor only got involved when grades were low. I'm like, okay, sure. Maybe four-year institutions are a little bit different than Salem Community College. So I later came home and I transferred to Wilmington University. It was wonderful. WilMU really took their time with the transcripts from ULL because of the different class scales and things of that nature, and they were able to accept my full-on Salem Community College transcripts with ease. So all in all, Louisiana did not have a great process in place. Hopefully they might have something better now. And unfortunately, the school was just a really judgmental school. And I've never been to a place that judging was, you know, still in existence, but apparently it is. And that was one of the main reasons I came home. I felt like I was not welcomed. I felt like I did not fit into the Acadian Cajun culture because of my South Jersey roots. I really loved my friends there. I loved the environment. I had a great time, but I was very, very disappointed in the school curriculum and the teachers and everybody affiliated with the school. I'm still Raging Cajun. I still love it. I still go visit, but that's about it. Now, my fourth question kind of rolled into my third question, but I separated them. So now I'm going to just kind of combine them. Always be prepared with copies of your transcripts, instructions on how to request and send your transcripts, and always keep a contact list of names, emails, phone numbers, and other important information from your advisors, not only from SCC, but to all your future institutions. Being prepared with all this information can alleviate a lot of phone tags, missed emails, and keep you on the path to success directly. And never be afraid to switch school if you feel like it does not fit your needs. So I appreciate you guys having me here, Nick. And if anybody ever has questions or concerns, feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. And we're hoping to have a little bit of time for questions from students at the end. So I'm just going to go ahead right into our next panelist, Jennifer. And just kind of curious, Jennifer, in this strange time of pandemic and everything, you know, if you have been able to join any clubs or organizations at your four-year institution, and how do you think that students are able to get involved at their four-year institutions?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, just because that's a lot of what I was thinking about while coming to Rowan is how am I going to make friends? How am I going to make connections and network in the middle of a pandemic? And for the interest of time, I do really want to try to combine my last two questions. So I'll try to do that as best as I can. But to answer the first and most important question, getting involved is something that I really enjoy doing. Like as soon as I got to Salem, I really wanted to be involved right away. And it really transitioned well into Rowan because of it. So once I got to Rowan, I was like, one of the first things I joined was the Honors College. And that really kind of propelled me into getting ready to like be involved in other commitments as well on campus. So at the Honors College, it basically means is you're going to graduate with like an extra kind of small degree in honors and or a concentration in honors, excuse me. So besides being a part of honors for the academic reasons, kind of similar to EOF, you can be a part of it just to attend workshops or events that they have, or take on a leadership position on their honors student organization. So I took on the position of the Honors College Senator, where I'm the liaison between the Honors College and the rest of the Rowan community. So that's kind of how I got started being involved. And then once I started learning about what I wanted to go for in my career, that's how it kind of helped me pinpoint what kind of things I want to be a part of, because I don't want to spread myself too thin, because I do have a tendency to do that. So that's a really good tip for incoming students to SCC or to any college. Do not spread yourself thin. But so one of the ways that I kind of figured that I would help propel my career was to join the Rowan Radio, first of all, which is our award-winning Rowan radio program. Their school newspaper, which is really fun to write for on a regular basis, and just kind of do things that are relative to my career. Kind of branching off of that a little bit, one piece of advice that I just really wanted to give that kind of correlates to this question was, do not be afraid of rejection, because rejection could propel you into something great. And it sounds cliche, but when I originally came to Rowan, I was not a public relations major. I wanted to be a music business major. But because the program is so competitive, I unfortunately didn't get in. So I joined public relations because it's a 2-year degree and I can get it over with, because I was just upset at the time. But basically, as I learned to be more involved in the department, the public relations department, I learned that I really have a love for journalism, and journalism and PR kind of go hand in hand. So just if you ever run into any kind of rejection, just know that it could propel you into something great if you're ready to look for that opportunity.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. Rejection can tear us down, or it can make us a stronger person and open up different opportunities. So I think that that is very great, sound advice, Jennifer, and I really thank you for that. Brianna, this question is for you. And this is our last question here. If you could talk a little bit about, and if anyone else wants to really jump in on this question as well, your transfer orientation day, and what couldn't students really expect from a transfer orientation? What does that kind of look like?
Okay, so because, like I said, because of the pandemic, I wasn't able to go to the college and complete my orientation. I did it virtually, online. So I had it was kind of like being in school with classes, like you had modules, but it was kind of cool. Like you had videos of them, talking about all the opportunities that like Rutgers offer and how you can get involved, and like alumni and their success stories. And they also like to make you be engaged. It was like short quizzes that they'll ask you, like, who's the dean of this, and what school has this. So it was like really different than how you would go if you was actually there at the college.
Awesome. Great. Does anybody else have any other experiences from their transfer orientation that they want to share? Dr. Farbman, maybe?
It was, we're talking, well before many of you on this line were born. It was radically different when I transferred to Rowan back in the day. It was, okay, there's a day, you go, you sit in a room of like 500 people or 300 people, however many it is, they're transferring in. There's a little, pomp and circumstance program, and it's like half day. And then they say, okay, this building over here is where you go pick your classes. And there was no direction, no hand holding. You didn't know anybody there. It was very disappointing. But it speaks to what Marissa said earlier, this idea of going ahead of time and just getting the lay of the land, so where your classes are going to be. It's uncertainty reduction theory. If you can reduce the uncertainty, it's going to increase your confidence level. So, back in the day, it was radically different. It's more than likely changed over the last in the last few years, but it was not beneficial at the time. You really had to figure it out for yourself.
Absolutely. Perfect. Okay, great. Do any current students have any questions for our alumni panelists?
I have a question.
Mhm.
So I graduate in May from SCC and I want to transfer to a 4-year university. I have this possible job opportunity at AI DuPont, and my neighbor works there, and she was saying that they would pay for my schooling and everything. Should I wait until I get my degree in May to start that process, or should I have already started that transfer process?
I can take this one if you like, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. So congratulations on your job opportunity, Megan. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Starting the process earlier is usually much better than later. Earlier means that you avoid getting too close to any deadlines or anything like that. And especially since if you'll be trying to balance that, and I can definitely speak to this, I worked my way through all of my college experience. Balancing work and school can get very difficult, especially as you're going into your bachelor's degree. The courses are more difficult, they require more time, more effort. So learning to balance that all earlier and making sure that you have all of your practical stuff out of the way earlier on will definitely save you a lot of time and headache later on. So I would recommend definitely work with your SCC advisor now in AI DuPont to make sure that you're ready to transition smoothly when you start taking classes at your next school. Don't wait.
Okay.
Can I add on to that, Nick?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I also worked my entire life through school. I was always a full-time student, but always a nighttime student. So yes, absolutely start the process early. I'm not sure what 4-year institution you're looking at going to, but you can start the process now. You can actually apply for your classes, get into your classes before getting your degree from Salem Community College. So don't think that you need a degree in order to apply for further education. A lot of classes, like I can speak on behalf of Wilmington because I'm very familiar with their process. They offer 7-week classes. And I know that once the spring semester ends, which is typically the end of April, you're looking at next month, they're going to begin back up in May. So I don't know how soon you're looking into getting into college or to start your college career, but if AI DuPont's going to start paying for it, I mean, the more the merrier. You can start doubling up on some classes and, starting the whole 4-year institution come May instead of waiting for graduation. And then every 7 weeks, there's always new classes, and that goes all summer long. So take advantage of everything that you can now, especially right now with the pandemic. There's a lot of online classes. And I'm not necessarily saying the online classes are easier, but they're a lot more convenient. So absolutely start the process now.
Okay, thank you.
And I would like to say something. All my life, I have worked and taken classes. So right now at age 63, I'm still taking classes. And, the university is paying for it. So if you have an employer that's going to pay for classes, you should definitely take, advantage of that. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, Nick, can I add to this too?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And Megan, congratulations on this opportunity. I mean, this is all about, you got to have that fire, got to have that hustle.
Yeah.
I just want to point something out, not discouraging you from this, but just point it out so you have this mindset. Typically with employers, now, of course, you'd have to check your employee agreement should you land this opportunity at DuPont. Typically with employers, they offer a tuition reimbursement. They don't pay the bill when you get it. You've got to shell out the money ahead of time, then wait for a semester to complete, get a transcript, submit the transcript, and then within a certain time frame, you'll get a reimbursement. The other thing you have to look at too is that, depending on the company, you may not be awarded a full tuition reimbursement, meaning it might be
Yeah.
on your grade. There might be, like where I work, I was able to go back and get my doctorate, but the tuition was higher than the rate that was reimbursed. So I still had to pay a lot of money out of pocket. Now I could have never done it without the reimbursement, but you have to shell that money out up front and carry that until you get the reimbursement. So it's not like you're going to get a tuition bill and then you can just take it to the HR department and say, here's my tuition bill. So
Yeah, that makes
just so you have that mindset of what to expect.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Perfect. Great. Did any other students have any other questions for our panelists? I see Jasmine's on here, Taylor's on here, Corinne's on here. Hey, Corinne. Any?
Hi, Nick.
Corinne's another student of mine. Does anybody have any questions left for our panelists before we wrap up?
Nick, can I just jump in for 1 second?
Absolutely.
I don't have a question, but I would like to put a plug out there for all of our alumni to don't forget your roots. Please, as often as you can, as soon as you can, come back and be part of the Alumni Association. There's a lot you can do, or small things that you can do. And the other thing I want to encourage you to do is always be on the lookout for opportunities to advocate for community colleges in New Jersey. There's a lot of things afoot right now to help make opportunities at community colleges more affordable, more accessible to students. And sometimes it takes the voices of students who have previously graduated from those colleges to make sure that those opportunities and the value of those opportunities are heard.
Absolutely. And, you know, as far as the Alumni Association goes, yes, I do encourage everyone, please, you know, when you graduate, to become a member of the Alumni Association. You know, our group right now is more on the small side, but we would love to we would love to grow, and we would love to have you, you know, as one of our members. I just want to take this opportunity to thank all of our panelists for sharing their journey and their information, their story today with us. I think that, you know, we all need a virtual round of applause for all of those panelists for joining us today. Ken, thank you so much for volunteering your time. I want to thank Dr. Jacob Bartman for volunteering his time to come out and speak with us today on NJ Transfer. Really appreciate that. And our alumni president, BJ Ayers, for coming out and speaking with us as well. And I want to thank Bill Clark, who had to exit the meeting a little earlier today. And also wanted to thank Chuck Earhart for, you know, promoting this event. I feel like this is such an important opportunity for all students to have, to be able to have an alumni there for them to alleviate any worries or concerns about the transfer process. It's just such a huge opportunity for current students to be able to learn from alumni who have been through the transfer process themselves. So again, I thank all of our panelists, our guest speakers, our alumni president, Bill and Chuck, just everyone. Thank you again for helping me put this together, and I hope everybody has a good rest of their day, good rest of your semester. And for those, you know, who will be watching the recording, I hope that you learned some valuable information from this. And thank you.
Hey, Nick, can I put in a shameless plug? I'd be remiss if I didn't.
Absolutely.
All of you on the line may already be aware of this. Some of you may already be taking advantage of this opportunity, but it goes along to what BJ said. We now have free community college in New Jersey called a Community College Opportunity Grant. And for all of you, you've all had wonderful experiences at Salem Community College. You've all had the opportunity to work with wonderful people. I need your help. I need you to tell your friends, your family, your neighbors that this opportunity for a pathway to an education and a wonderful life exists for them at Salem Community College through our Community College Opportunity Grant. It's expansive. In other words, it's available to students right out of high school. It's available to adults who may not have a college degree to come back and get that college degree at Salem Community College. So please tell your friends, family, neighbors, everybody you know that we have this program available for them at Salem Community College.
I would also be remiss to say that I'm the advisor for that program. So, I would encourage for everyone to apply for that program. It has changed my life. It has changed the lives of so many students who have been enrolled in it so far. And the Community College Opportunity Grant is an amazing opportunity, no pun intended, to receive free college tuition. So really appreciate that shout out for the Community College Opportunity Grant. And please, yes, if you do have any friends or neighbors who are interested in coming to college and they make $65,000 or less annual gross income, then they may qualify. So please, keep that in mind, and hopefully they can be awarded that grant, and then they'll see lots more of me. So again, I just thank everybody for coming here today, and we're going to be wrapping things up. And again, thanking our panelists and our guest speaker and alumni president and Bill for hosting this today. So thank you, and hope everybody has a good rest of their semester.
Good to be with you all. Thank you so much.